As Daniel stepped onto his school bus one morning, he immediately sensed something was off. The bus's usual comforting atmosphere was marred by a strange smell that caught his attention. Instead of Mr. Peterson's welcoming face in the driver's seat, there was a stern-looking stranger with wild hair and large sunglasses hiding his eyes. As the sun pierced the early morning fog, Daniel had waved goodbye to his upbeat parents at the bus stop. Their cheerful goodbyes and hopeful wishes for a good school day still rang in his ears, an optimism that Daniel held dear. However, this morning promised to unfold quite differently. Standing at the bus stop, Daniel found solace in the routine around him, the lively chatter of his classmates, the birdsong, and the familiar hum of the approaching bus. But today, these comforting sounds were overshadowed by a growing unease as the large yellow bus stopped and its doors opened. Though his classmates seemed unaware of any change, deeply engaged in their own conversations, Daniel couldn't ignore the peculiarity. He recalled his parents' advice: "Trust your gut, Danny, it's usually right." The man's nervous tapping on the steering wheel and his restless vibe contrasted sharply with the normal bus environment. Despite feeling uneasy, Daniel followed his friends onto the bus but couldn't dismiss the alarm gnawing at him. He settled into his usual seat, his gaze repeatedly drawn to the man now steering their course. Unlike Mr. Peterson, the new driver didn't engage in small talk or greet the kids by name. Instead, he seemed focused solely on departing quickly, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. "You're just being paranoid," whispered his best friend Mike, noticing Daniel's distracted state. Mike's words were meant to be reassuring, trying to pull Daniel back into the light-hearted morning banter. But Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than paranoia. It was instinct, deep and primal, a remnant from times when intuition was a key survival tool. His senses were heightened, warning him that something was amiss. Determined not to let his friends' reassurances cloud his judgment, Daniel resolved to stay vigilant, trusting his instincts and ready to respond. He cautiously pulled out his phone and dialed 911. Explaining the situation in hushed tones so as not to alert the driver or panic his classmates. As he spoke with the dispatcher, providing details of their location and the bus's erratic behavior, Daniel felt a mix of fear and determination. He knew that his keen observational skills and heightened intuition, which often went unnoticed, were crucial in this moment. Little did he know just how much these abilities would be tested on what appeared to be a typical school day. As the bus continued its route through the picturesque New Hampshire landscape, the rising sun casting an ethereal glow over the morning, a sense of foreboding had taken hold of Daniel. This tranquil scene was marred by the bus driver's increasingly erratic behavior, which Daniel had been discreetly monitoring. The bus began to accelerate unexpectedly, then brake harshly, throwing the passengers forward uncomfortably, normally lively with laughter and light-hearted chatter. The atmosphere on the bus now felt tense and unsettling. Daniel's pulse raced with each unpredictable surge of speed and abrupt stop, his apprehension mounting. Despite the dramatic shifts in the vehicle's movement, Daniel's classmates seemed absorbed in their own worlds, oblivious to the potential danger. They laughed and conversed, a stark contrast to Daniel's escalating fear, exchanging baseball cards and discussing the latest superhero movie. Their innocence untouched by the growing unpredictability of their situation. A sense of responsibility overwhelmed Daniel as he realized he was the only one aware of the imminent threat. His heart tightened at the sight of his classmates, their lives unknowingly teetering on the brink of danger. A resolve ignited within him. He knew he had to act, his attention fixed on the bus driver, whose expression displayed a mix of intense focus and distraction. Sweat beaded on the driver's forehead, and his breathing became labored, clear indicators that something was seriously amiss. Looking out the window, the familiar route to his school blurred past, usual landmarks like the bakery where he and his friends often stopped for pastries, the playground they frequented on Saturdays, and his father's office building. These familiar sights stood in stark contrast to the growing dread inside him. Instinctively, Daniel knew he had to act. He cautiously pulled out his phone and dialed 911. Explaining the situation in hushed tones to avoid alarming the driver or causing panic among his classmates. As he spoke with the dispatcher, providing details of their location and the bus's erratic behavior, Daniel felt a mix of fear and determination. He knew his keen observational skills and heightened intuition often unnoticed, were crucial in this moment. Daniel's response wasn't about playing the hero, it was about taking necessary and appropriate action in that crucial moment. He was struck by a profound sense of clarity, positioned to potentially avert a disaster. He knew he had to make the adults aware that the threat was real and not just a figment of his active imagination. Though just a boy, Daniel had an unusually sharp intuition which he trusted completely. As he braced himself to take action, a knot of anxiety tightened in his stomach. Daniel raced past the bus stop without stopping, his heart pounding in his chest and his breath catching in his throat. The bus was deviating onto the freeway, veering off its usual path, as if his worst fears were manifesting before his eyes, turning his sense of alarm into a stark reality. With a loud roar, the bus merged onto the freeway, leaving the familiar city streets behind. The bustling urban traffic gave way to the vast expanse of the freeway. A chill of dread washed over Daniel as his friends began to notice the missed turn and the bus's unusual speed, their laughter fading into worried whispers. "Maybe he's just taking a different route," Mike suggested, his voice quivering slightly in an attempt to lighten the mood, but Daniel was sure this was no simple detour or harmless mistake. It was a clear and present danger. His instincts had been alerting him all along, and now, his unease had turned into tangible peril. Concern was evident on the faces of his classmates, their cheerful morning demeanor overshadowed by confusion and fear. Daniel wished he could reassure them that everything would be okay, but even he was not convinced. Gathering some resolve, he decided to act. His shaky hand reached into his bag and pulled out his phone. His thumb hovered over the keypad, the emergency numbers staring back at him. He had entered these digits once during a school drill but never in a real crisis. His heart raced as he pressed the call button, gripping the bus seat tightly as the vehicle swerved. 911, what's your emergency? Came the operator's calm voice. Daniel swallowed, realizing the gravity of the situation. He had moved from a passive observer to an active participant in ensuring their safety. "Hi, my name is Daniel Carter," he started, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm on a bus that seems to have taken a wrong turn onto the freeway and is now speeding. It's not following the usual route. And everyone on board is becoming anxious and scared." Amid the chaos that churned within him and the uncertainty of the moment, Daniel experienced a surge of relief. He had trusted his gut feeling and sought help. No longer merely a passenger on this rogue journey, he became a symbol of hope for his classmates. The full gravity of their situation had become apparent, but with it, Daniel felt a renewed sense of purpose. His instincts had guided him up to this point, and he was prepared to do whatever it took to safeguard himself and his friends. Daniel was no ordinary child. His acute sense of intuition was his most powerful ally. As adrenaline coursed through his body and his heart pounded in his chest, he was enveloped by a chilling fear. Nevertheless, within this overwhelming fear, Daniel found a small, steady sanctuary of calm, a solid conviction that he could shape the outcome of the events. Taking a deep breath, he began to describe the situation. "We're on the school bus, and our driver is not handling it properly," he explained calmly. Despite the surrounding chaos, his voice remained firm, a calm presence in a sea of panic. He provided the 911 operator with their location, the bus number, and details of the driver's erratic behavior, clearly outlining the scenario. Each word he uttered was infused with a newfound courage, a determination to rescue himself and his friends from their dangerous predicament. On the other end of the call, the operator acted swiftly, her voice tinged with an urgency that matched Daniel's own anxieties. She reassured him that help was on the way and instructed him to keep the line open. The response was immediate, with the closest police patrol unit being dispatched to intercept the bus. Daniel's courageous actions had set these critical events in motion. Back on the bus, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Daniel's classmates, who had initially been skeptical, now shared his tangible concern as the driver's behavior became increasingly erratic, with sudden accelerations and decelerations, along with more pronounced swerving. Each abrupt stop and unexpected turn sent waves of fear through the students, replacing their playful chatter with frightened whispers. Yet, as chaos reigned, Daniel clung to the lifeline of his phone call. The operator's calm, reassuring voice was a beacon in the storm, offering a glimmer of hope in their darkest hour. He relayed her instructions to remain calm and seated to his classmates, his words providing a semblance of stability amidst the chaos. Amid the chaos, the sound of police sirens echoed in the background, growing steadily louder. Unaware of the unfolding events, the erratic bus driver continued his journey until a rescue team was almost upon them. The police vehicles, their lights flashing blue and red, were quickly closing in, poised to intercept the bus and prevent a disaster. Each second heightened the urgency of the situation, increasing the likelihood of a timely rescue. Daniel's decision to call for help had set off a critical sequence of events, his bravery laying the groundwork for a possible resolution. As the siren's wail matched the racing of his heartbeat, Daniel felt a surge of hope despite his fear. This young schoolboy from New Hampshire had become a key figure in this emergency, showing that bravery knows no age or physical strength but is defined by the determination to act in spite of fear. As the sirens grew louder, the bus came to a sudden stop at a red light. Just as the driver was about to disregard the light and drive on, two police vehicles skillfully blocked the bus in a move straight out of an action film. The officers swiftly apprehended the driver as the children on board looked on, their expressions a mix of terror and amazement. Investigations later revealed that the driver was under the influence of drugs, which had clouded his judgment and posed a serious threat to everyone on the bus. Watching the driver being handcuffed, Daniel's heart pounded with the realization of the danger they had all narrowly avoided, yet he also felt a profound relief and satisfaction knowing that his quick thinking had helped avert a tragedy. Word of Daniel's courageous act quickly spread throughout his tight-knit New Hampshire community. Parents expressed their relief and gratitude for the boy who had safeguarded their children from potential harm. His bravery was celebrated at school assemblies and covered by local newspapers, earning him the status of a local hero. Despite the attention, Daniel remained humble, maintaining that he had simply done what was necessary under the circumstances. The incident left a lasting impact on Daniel, reinforcing his trust in his instincts and his confidence in facing intense situations. Daniel realized that his intuitive nature should not be ignored but rather acknowledged and trusted. He came to understand that his instincts were not mere impulsive reactions, but significant insights that could have a profound impact and even save lives. While his friends continued with their usual activities, Daniel underwent a transformation. Life taught him a new lesson about trust, self-confidence, and stepping up when needed. His world had expanded beyond just schoolwork and baseball. It now encompassed lessons on intuition and responsibility. This experience served as a stark reminder of life's unpredictability, yet it also demonstrated how one individual's bravery could make a real difference. Daniel Carter, who was once merely a schoolboy, had evolved into a hero who relied on his instincts with complete certainty. Do you have any thoughts after watching the above video? Tell us in the comments section. We'd like to hear your thoughts. That's for today's story, and if you liked the video, please subscribe and give a thumbs up. See you next time.